Welcome to the Engineering Change Podcast, your intersection between engineering, politics, and leadership. I'm one of your hosts, Brett Hillesheim, and joining me today, he's been absent for a hot minute, but the geo to my technical, that's a little call to our guest who's coming up in a minute. Michael Sully Sullivan, President and CEO of ACEC Georgia.
Good to be here, Brett. Good to be back here.
Yeah.
You know, I have been absent, and you've been podcasting without me, and it's fine. It's fine.
I mean,
it's fine.
I know it's fine. If you're not here, I mean, that's your loss, man.
It was my loss. We had some great episodes without me. Maybe that's a message.
No. We need you, Sully. We need you.
I don't know about that, but no, there were some great episodes, and it was nice to be able to listen and watch them as a non-participant.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Someday I'll set you free and I'll be absent.
Yeah, but I don't think I could control all the buttons.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know if everybody can see the buttons. There's a lot of buttons.
Sometimes they can.
A lot of buttons.
There are so many buttons. Speaking of buttons, our guest today, let me switch one of those buttons. Kenneth Fluker is the Principal Engineer and Vice President of Quality and Technical Director. What a title, sir. For Corporate Environmental Risk Management, or CERM. He has over 25 years' experience in engineering. Kenneth has served in various positions on the ACEC Georgia Board, and it's currently the Board Chair. Welcome, Kenneth.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you, Sully.
The chairman of the board, our boss.
Our boss.
The big boss.
He's here. So we have to behave a little bit more today because he could he fire you mostly. Yeah.
Actually,
but
yes.
before
Yeah.
you leave, you would probably fire me. So.
No, I don't think I would take everybody down with me. I think I would.
Kenneth, do whatever you want to do, man.
No way. No way. We can't do this without y'all. So that's the last thing on my. That's not even on my list.
But he has a list. You heard that, right?
Okay, let me correct that. No, there is not that kind of list.
Like in
there's a list of priorities, and that is not on the priority list.
Like in Prep and Landing, where the elf thinks he's going to be in charge of the naughty list. I could put you on the naughty list. No, I'm kidding,
No.
but I could. But I could.
There's no naughty list.
Good.
Kenneth, why don't we start with you just telling us a little bit more about yourself and who you are.
Okay, well, I grew up in Montgomery, Alabama, graduated from Sidney Lanier High School, and I went on to Auburn University. Actually, I went through Auburn at Montgomery and transferred to Auburn main campus, and decided to major in civil engineering. Wow. And that's a long story how I got there, but then made my way to South Louisiana in geotechnical engineering, where I was there for about 12 years, and then moved to Atlanta, Metro Atlanta, 21 years ago.
Wow.
Practicing geotechnical engineering, and then about 15 years ago, during the recession, I joined CERM and started doing more than geotechnical engineering. So 30 plus years later, I find myself the Vice President of Quality and Technical Director. And I'm also, I like to solve problems. I guess that's why I became an engineer. And, most importantly, I've married to my beautiful and wonderful wife, Felicia, for the past 31 years, almost the same as I've been an engineer. Oh. And I have 3 kids, 3 young adult kids. And my hobbies are auto repair.
Really? Auto repair.
And other kinds of repair. Anything that's broken, I like to fix.
Classic engineer.
Classic engineer, right?
Engineer.
So.
Although let me correct that. I consider myself a cookbook mechanic.
Oh.
Okay.
So you tell me what the problem is, or I'm starting to learn how to diagnose things. But as soon as I know what the problem is, then I can follow the procedures like the technicians do and fix it.
That's awesome. I also consider myself a cookbook mechanic. So yeah, we can learn together sometime.
Excellent.
So a lot of your journey was in geotechnical engineering. When did you start making that transition from being just an engineer, and I don't mean that pejoratively, but just an engineer, to leadership in firms and such?
I would say that started about my 12th year into my career. I was starting to take on more managerial roles. Actually, I should say it actually started my first day in the field behind a drill rig, managing the drill crew. That was something that, oh my God, I've got all this weight and pressure on me, and everybody's looking at me to make a decision. And so after doing that repetitively so many times, it was a natural progression of things. And as I started managing projects, I began to become more comfortable with decision making and things like that. And then when I finally got my PE seal and stamped it, that was oh no, it's my turn now. And then after that, it was just a stair step. And next thing I know, I was taking on more responsibilities. And it's not something I asked for. It was just, I guess I was performing, and my supervisor saw that I could handle it and started stacking it on. It was just like a load test, just adding load, more load, more load.
Oh. That's really cool. That's really cool. So through that process, I'm sure you had mentors.
Yes.
Who were some of your mentors that you found, maybe the likely ones that people would think of, and unlikely mentors?
Okay, so the likely mentors would be supervisors, upline management, and the unlikely would be folks like the receptionists, the drilling managers, folks that you would normally, basically the administrative staff. I would say in the case of the likely mentors, my supervisors, Dan Franklin, Ron Jones, Victor Donnell, Terry Giles, Doug Dayton, the list goes on. Mike Ballard, Jesse Whittemore, and of course, where I am now, Al Edwards, Cliff Lambert, Femi Adesanya. I mean, all the people have touched me along my career, pretty much, and then some of the folks that really shaped me. I think the most profound effect on me has been Al Edwards. I think I'd reached a point. I started listening more to what people were saying in terms of trying to nudge me in a direction, and I think I finally woke up.
So, how do you pay that forward? You mentioned that a lot of people get into engineering not with the idea of becoming a leader. They get into engineering with the idea of engineering, right? And at some point, someone identifies them as a potential leader and starts to pour into them and starts to mentor them. How do you do that for the folks within CERM?
Yes. I talk to folks. I like to develop a one-on-one relationship with them, find out what their goals and aspirations are. And then I ask questions. Ask them where do they see themselves, that type of thing. And then by developing that relationship, you get to understand the person, and then offer suggestions. I don't just tell them this is what you should be doing. I try and point them in the direction by asking the questions. One of the things that we have in our program is a job shadowing program, and that's a 2-day program where we bring in high school students, and some of our employees are the beneficiaries of that job shadowing program. They've come through the job shadowing program. And so for those who did not come through the job shadowing program, they either came through an internship or something like that. And those who were hired either coming from another company or coming directly out of school, I'm always pointing them in the direction of things that work for me, paying it forward, doing some of the same things, recommending, certain things. A technical person wants to be a project manager, where there's tons of information about project management, PSMJ, and YouTube, of all places, YouTube and LinkedIn Learning. LinkedIn Learning is their management system is great, and so I always point them in those directions. And then, and for those who are wanted to aspire higher into those things, I always point to ACEC has some good leadership programs like the introduction of business. Let me get this straight. The introduction
the business of engineering.
Thank you.
Introduction
Thank
to
you.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah, the
Our
introduction.
introductory.
Yeah, the
leadership program
yeah.
for folks with 0 to 5 years of experience.
That's right. That's right. And that's I think that's the best one. When you come into an organization, engineering or any business for that matter, you don't really understand what it is that the organization is about, what the business is about, and I think having that course, and for those who are listening, if you haven't, definitely do turn your people onto that, because that will get them to understand all the what you're going through as a business owner. And then of course there's the future leaders, emerging leaders, and we put quite a few people through that program, and they've been successful. Some have gone on to other organizations, but that's okay, because the way I look at it is one day they're going to come back to us as a client. They may come back as an employee, and that's it's all good. It all comes back in the end, and or a JV partner later down the road. So and yeah.
Well, speaking of that younger generation, looking back to a time when you were a new engineer, what kind of challenges did you face as a young engineer?
You know, it's funny. When you go through the storm, you don't realize you're in the storm until afterwards. You look back and you go, "That was a storm."
Wow, how did I get through that?
How did I get through that? And I think it just boils down to basic fundamentals. Discipline your mind to get the job done. Focus on what the task at hand, and not worry about what's happening down the road. It's working in day-tight compartments, as Dale Carnegie says. That is, matter of fact, that reminds me. It's funny how that having this conversation brings back some memories. My first boss, Ron Jones, was into Dale Carnegie. He was an instructor, and he put us through the core Dale Carnegie course. Wow. I was in my first 1 or 2 years, and I had no idea about what was going on, but it taught me a lot. And I think those are the kind of things, giving our employees an opportunity to learn like that. And it's funny because, you know, you can tell people all day long to do something, you know, advise to do this, until they hear it from someone else. It doesn't stick. So that's where the training, I think,
kind of like
outside,
parents with kids sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah. My wife's a middle school mathematics teacher, and I just remember her pulling her hair out with our kids, and that's not how my teacher told me how to do it. Things like that. But everyone else is saying, "Oh, she's a great math teacher," and she might turn my child from not liking math. Even I don't like math, and I like math now. That kind of, but our own kids, we couldn't seem to get them to.
Yeah, sometimes a third party is a useful tool.
Yes.
Some other person to come in and validate.
That's exactly right.
Has said, and
that's where the outside training, I think, helps with that. Particularly with, it doesn't have to be expensive. I mean, it's something as simple as finding something on a YouTube video and directing your folks to it. Say, look, I said it, they're saying it too.
Yeah, and Dale Carnegie is a great example of a set of, sometimes what you're doing is you're providing them with a set of tools.
Right.
And that's a set of tools that, you know, applies early in your career, middle career, late
it
career.
Does.
It applies across the whole history of your career.
It really does. And that I guess that sparked that memory when I said living in day-tight compartments.
Well, you're not only a leader at CERM, you're also a leader of ACEC Georgia. Let's talk about your entry into ACEC National and...
you know, how did we talk you into it? What drew you to ACEC Georgia and also ACEC National? It should be noted that not only are you the chairman of the ACEC Georgia Board of Directors, you have been and are extremely active at the ACEC National level as well. Kind of tell us how you got in and all the things that you've been plugged into over the years.
Okay, all right. I'll start with we joined ACEC, I want to say about 7 years ago? 8 years ago. Wow, time flies. And we initially joined because of the insurance. That was the hook that got us in. And
shout out to the ACEC Life Health Trust.
Yeah, we were paying out the nose in terms of premium and health insurance premiums, and joined up and got a great discount there, and then started looking at all the value that ACEC brings. And then the next thing I know, I was attending a membership committee meeting, and I enjoyed it, and I got to listen in on the financial meeting, and so next thing you know, I'm getting more and more involved in these things and attending ACEC events, and then one year we won an award in our Mobile office, Mobile Gas Project, where we did public engagement, environmental consulting. It actually started as environmental consulting and led to public engagement, and so that and then we ended up doing construction management and civil site design, and we pretty much did all our disciplines there, and we won an award as a result of that. It was primarily for the public engagement piece, but I had an opportunity to go to the national convention where the award was. We won the state award, and then we were nominated for the national award, and so I attended the national convention to accept our award there with Al Edwards, and I just happened to be sitting in on a geoprofessional coalition meeting. They were just starting it, and they were looking for volunteers, and very few people volunteered. It was just a handful of us that volunteered to serve on this coalition. I thought, well, I'm a geotechnical engineer, and this is right up my alley. Let me get involved, and then the rest is history. Of course I chaired the membership committee. I still am chair of the membership committee, and now I'm secretary in the coalition, and hopefully will rise up, continue through the leadership to eventually chair in a few years.
I have no doubt.
Well, thank you. And so that's how I got started in ACEC, and as a result of attending, and of course, let me tell you, ACEC Georgia and ACEC National, I mean, the content is great. We put out great stuff, and I encourage everyone who hasn't been to a national convention or our fall conference is coming up now to attend. There's a lot of, and I think I've improved personally and professionally as a result of attending, especially the leadership courses that they have. And I'm always turned on to new books and things like that, the speakers that come on and in fact, some of the, I think of the summer conference we just had, where a speaker, I can't remember his name, but he talked about not time management, but managing your energy level. Mm-hmm. He says it's not about managing time, it's manage your energy level. And there's like 4 levels of this: physical, spiritual, mental, and I forget the 4th one. But the point is, if you manage your energy, you can rise to the occasion. Mm-hmm. And there's a whole lot deep into that. And that's just an example of some of the things. And we, just the content that we have and on the national level, it's just great stuff.
And Engineering Excellence Awards, the awards you referred to, probably point out that nominations are open for the Engineering Excellence Awards. When you're listening or watching this podcast, if you got a project that you think might be eligible, hop on there and see those categories, and maybe you'll win an award, and maybe you too will rise to be chairman of ACEC Georgia as a result of winning that award. And at the Georgia Engineering Awards here in Georgia, and the National Engineering Excellence Awards, which they used to refer to as the Academy Awards of Engineering, I believe they received a letter from your Academy not to do that anymore. It's a registered trademark.
That sounds funny. It's like no engineer can. If you're not an engineer, you can't call yourself an engineer.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Which we do not around here, because we are not engineers, Sully and I.
No, and but actually, talking about some of your unlikely mentors, one thing that we've tried to get in the habit of doing is, instead of referring to people as engineers, which of course you are a licensed professional engineer in multiple states, engineering professionals. Yep. Because the reality is our industry is more than just licensed professional engineers. We have a range of disciplines and skill sets and professions within our member firms.
Thank you for that, Sully. I will start using that from now on. Engineering professionals. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So let's go to some advice. But I want to start with first asking you, some of the best advice we can give is when we've screwed up. And we can talk from a place of mistake.
Right.
What's a mistake you've made in your career that you caution others against, or that you've used as a lesson to others?
Wow, there have been so many. Where do I start? And how do I protect the innocent?
Yeah.
No names.
No names.
No
Okay,
names.
no names. Okay. Well, I tell you, the very first mistake I made earlier in my career was somehow I managed to get the pickup truck, wedged over a concrete ditch.
Oh, no.
And the driller helped me get it unstuck. I don't know how I did it. I was backing up. That's the problem. I was backing up. I should have driven forward and turned around. So always, safety moment, always look where you're going. Travel, your eyes should be in the direction of travel, never in the looking anywhere else but the direction of travel. So if you got to go backwards, turn around and go backwards. So the best thing to do is turn around than trying to go in reverse. So somehow I misjudged so that's the number one thing, first thing, safety moment there. The other thing I would say is we all make mistakes, and that's how we learn. And I had to learn that the hard way. I always thought I had to be perfect and get everything right. And since that's why us engineers tend to overthink, I don't like that term overthink. I don't think there's such thing as overthinking, but we'll use that for everybody because that's a baseline. But I think that's why we go there, is because we try and avoid the mistakes. But hey, even when you do that, mistakes are going to happen. And the best thing you can do is you can only make the best decision is based on the information available at hand, and no one can blame you after that. So there have been some mistakes earlier in my career, not in this lifetime, but in another life, hiring someone that I thought could do the job, and turns out, and I thought I was asking the right questions. How do you do it? How do you do it? I don't think I went deep enough, but the person passed flying colors, and then turned it out to do some damage to the garage door with the vehicle, which I couldn't. I don't know how that happened, but I gave grace because, as I stated, I made a mistake by driving the truck over the ditch.
You could relate.
Yeah.
Late, but there were some other issues there that it turns out the person's reference was his girlfriend was all three of his references. I learned that later.
She used different voices when you called?
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Actually, she didn't, but I was earlier in my career, and I really needed this guy to come on. He had the technical chops.
Sure.
But there was just something not right, and I overlooked that. Okay, and I regret that because it ended up there were some other things that transpired.
So trust your gut.
Trust your gut, yes.
Trust your gut,
and
yeah.
so and
although interviews can be tricky because the skill set of being good in an interview is not necessarily the same skill set that you're hiring for.
This is true. This is true. and that's why I say, there's all kinds of red flags, and we tend to overlook them. And that's a big mistake, I think, as leaders make, is that we're so focused on the end goal that we're willing to overlook the little things. I mean, things that we normally wouldn't overlook just to achieve the goal. But the means don't necessarily justify the end. And so, whatever your core values are, stick to those and follow those. We fall apart when we don't stick to our fundamentals.
That's a good lesson for anything.
Yes.
Everything.
Lesson.
Yes.
Yeah. What's some advice that you give people starting off in their career?
Let's see. Advice. Well, it depends. I try not to give unsolicited advice. I like for people to ask me before I do that, because sometimes I can come across overbearing, and so I try and fall back into questioning instead of telling. So let them figure it out. But some of the advice for I would say young engineers or young engineering professionals, because we have technicians as well, and not everybody is going to be an engineer, and we rely heavily. It's more technicians are professionals, non-engineers in most of our organizations than there are actual engineers.
Mm-hmm.
And so we rely heavily on those folks, and it just really depends on where they are in their stage in life, what they want to do. If sometimes you get to hear the personal stories, and some of them are sad and challenging, and I always try and just sometimes the best advice is just to listen to what they have to say in those cases. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, now when you get on the career path, okay, what's the best way to do? I always like to lay out, we have a career path for wherever you walk into the door, how you can get to certain locations. So I try and direct folks to that. And it's the advice is more of, what the person is trying to achieve. So trying to think of
listen to them and meet them where they are.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And that's funny you should say that, because I've been saying that. Demetra Aldrich told me that. She was our corporate director of corporate management and strategic initiatives, and she passed away back in 21. But Demetra would say, yes, we have to meet the people, meet our people where they are. We can't have everyone is not going to always be where we want them to be. So, and in this economy of workforce, shortage of workforce, you don't have a choice. I remember when I started out my career, you could, well, not geotechnical engineers, but because we were very few and still are few. But there was a fear of, I might lose my job.
Sure.
And today it's like, well, I might lose my job, but nah, I'm not, because they need me.
If I do, there's 15 firms lined up to hire me right after.
That's right. That's exactly right. But this gets back to what I said earlier about falling back on our core values. Mm-hmm. And I tell my children this. I say, look, don't ever get to the point where you think you're not replaceable, because you are. Mm-hmm. You are replaceable. So don't ever walk around with that. You may, technically you may not be replaceable, but don't ever walk around with the attitude that you're not replaceable. And I think that goes a long way in any organization.
Well, you're probably irreplaceable as the chairman of ACEC Georgia, but nevertheless, we will have to replace you at some point.
Yes, you will.
Next July, actually.
That's right.
Holly Painter
That's right.
will be taking over as chair. She's our current chair-elect. But in that vein of leadership succession, pivoting from the leadership within a firm or within a business, leadership within the trade association that represents the business of engineering, what advice would you give for folks who are interested in the business side of engineering and see ACEC as a place to learn more about that? How would you recommend to them to get involved and plug in and become leaders
definitely
within the organization?
Certainly. I would start with, if you haven't been through Future Leaders, which I did not go through, I wish I had that opportunity, in Emerging Leaders, and after that, which is, I think, 10 years. Is it 10 years? 5 to 10 years?
We don't really. So, Introduction to Business of Engineering, we definitely articulate as 0 to 5 years of experience. That seems like a good place. But those leadership transition moments that come after that don't seem to necessarily follow a rigid year schedule. Different
Right.
people transition at different times. So, Future Leaders is kind of focused on folks transitioning from doing to managing people, managing projects. And then Engineering Leadership Academy is transitioning from folks that have been managing people, managing projects, maybe departments and divisions, but they're being considered for higher level executive positions within their firm. So that's kind of the
Right.
line of demarcation we use.
Okay.
Because what one firm's timelines are different from other firms' timelines, and we want to again meet people where they are. What is the career transition that you're taking this class to prepare for, rather than a set of years?
Right. Got it. The so there's so many different programs that we have, forums, business of engineering. I think the latest forum we started was law. We have a
Legal issues forum.
legal issues
HR
forum. All these things are business, HR, legal. We have a STEM workforce task force. There's so many different task force, and we need champions for these task force, for those of you who are listening. And that's the best way to get plugged into these things. And to answer your specific question about if they're interested in the business of engineering, I'd say just touching everything that ACEC Georgia is doing, even on the advocacy side, because, I mean, some people say, oh, I don't want to be political and that kind of thing. Well, if you're, what is the saying? If you're not at the
politics, you're going to get played by politics. If you're not at the table, you may be on the menu.
That's right. And we have a strong pack. I think we're on the national level. We're
in the top 3% nationally, the national pack, and our state pack. I don't know where we rank with other trade associations, but it's pretty robust. I feel like we're able to show support to the folks that we need to show support for.
And because of that pack, because of our pack, we're able to get certain legislation passed. The indemnification bill, a duty to defend, that was a big major feat. Some of the transportation bills, and the latest on the table now is QBS. That's going to be a big win for us.
Knock on wood.
And yeah, I know.
QBS to the local government level,
right,
as a requirement.
And so there's just so many things, so 360 degrees of business interaction that you just get involved with ACEC. Just dip your toe into the water. Come to the transportation forum. Although we're not a transportation organization, right? We're engineers.
Forum.
We have
vertical construction forum.
We have MEP, vertical, which includes MEP and things like that. So I mean, just come to those things that you find of interest, and you'll find that your eyes will start to open to the other the opportunities.
And I do want to point out for people that are listening, if you don't know, that if you're wondering how to join ACEC Georgia, if your firm's a member, you are a member.
You are, yeah. That's one thing we can't stress enough is that if your firm is a member of ACEC Georgia, you are a member of ACEC Georgia. Every employee, and so you can pay the some of the opportunities are no charge and to members, and then there's a reduced price for members.
Yep.
And so that, I mean, just getting plugged in, just finding start with your passion.
Yeah.
What do you like? And if you jump into something you don't like, then try something else. It's like trying on shoes until you get the right fit.
Yeah, that's something we tell individuals as well as firms. We'll go to a firm and have a lunch and learn about ACEC Georgia. I always say, we want you to make selfish decisions. We're not asking anybody to, join ACEC Georgia. It's your trade association. You owe us. You don't owe us anything.
That's right.
Find something that you think that you're passionate about, that by plugging into that, you're going to receive value.
Mm-hmm. That's
your
right.
firm's going to receive value by virtue of you participating in that. That's where the real magic happens, because if they're getting involved in something they're passionate about, they're probably going to really contribute and bring a lot to the table.
This is true. And 80% of our membership is small businesses. Less than
60
employees or less. 60 employees or less. And part of trying to push membership, people who are not members, I hear that, I just don't have time. Well, you don't have to have time. Let your people do it. Delegate.
That's right.
Send some folks to the things on your behalf and let them report back to you on what they found. And then that's how you introduce them into it. Next thing you know, man, you're building momentum.
And not only do you get what they're bringing back, what they're learning or receiving from participating, but you're also getting the benefit of retention, because you're pouring into those younger junior staff members and saying, hey, you're valuable. We want to invest in you participating in these things, so you get both benefits that way.
That's it, Sully.
Yeah. Couldn't agree with you more, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I'm glad you two have found common ground.
We've almost always found common ground. I can't think of an instance where we haven't. But
no.
So you are the chairman. Our fiscal year begins July 1st, so you're very early in your chairmanship, which really, for those of you that haven't participated in one of our planning retreats, we have a strategic planning retreat in April of every year, and that's really and that's led by the chair-elect, who's about to become chair. Kind of what is it that we need to grapple with as an organization? What problem can we solve, or what thing can we do to get better? So as you begin your chairmanship, kind of what's your vision for the year? What do you hope to accomplish for the year? Where do you think you'd like for us to be? next July when your term is ended and you get the best title, immediate past chair?
Great question, Sally. So my strategic planning session was revolved around the book Good to Great and the chapter on the flywheel concept. So before we get to the flywheel concept, we need to understand the hedgehog principle, and that was done about 6 years ago in a previous planning retreat where we developed, focused on what our hedgehog principle is. And for those of you who have not read the book, Good to Great, the concept revolves around 3 circles. What are you best at? What are you passionate about? And what is your economic engine? And where those 3 circles overlap is your hedgehog principle. That's the thing that you should focus on and do nothing else than that. And the hedgehog is a fable of a fox and a hedgehog, Greek fable, that has to do with the fox trying to constantly get the hedgehog, similar to Wile E. Coyote in the Roadrunner. And the fox is always cunning and trying to grab the hedgehog. But what does the hedgehog do every time? Rolls up into a ball. One thing, does one thing only, and that's all he does. And so the book revolves around companies that have found their hedgehog principle and how they've become great. And the way they judge that greatness was over the course of 15 years outperforming the market. And what did they all have in common? Well, they had this in common, the hedgehog principle. Once you got that down and you're working on that, then it's the flywheel concept, which I focused on, or we focused on during my strategic planning session. And basically, the flywheel concept is keeping the wheel rolling. Flywheels are common in our everyday use, engines, watches, things like that. And the way it works is angular momentum, conservation of angular momentum, inertia. When you get things running and then you just apply a little force and it builds more momentum, and then you can stop applying force and it'll run on its own, and it's a constant velocity, maintain constant velocity. And that's what we've been doing, and I noticed that that's what we accomplished during the pandemic. That's exactly what happened. We had to, everyone had to retreat. Our flywheel kept spinning. We had already established everything it was in place. The flywheel was spinning, and then all we had to do was, there were some programs that came during the pandemic that we just applied just a little force to keep it rolling. Until we came through the pandemic, our flywheel's still spinning, and we're just as good as a result of it. I mean, things that ACEC Georgia did was during that period of time was the bill that allowed engineers to serve as third-party permit reviewers. That was very important to keep the projects. Go ahead, Sully.
Private plan review and inspections.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. But that allowed construction to continue going on. And so that was just a classic example of that. And I thought, that's something that resonated with me very well, which was I want to keep everything going. And so what we did was we focused around things what force we would apply and frictions to reduce. Because, of course, everything has a friction that creates drag. So how can we reduce those frictions and apply more force? And so the things that we're looking at is attracting new members, engaging the existing members, and delighting all. So we want to convert strangers we want to take strangers, turn them into prospects, turn them into members, and then champions. And that keeps the whole process rolling. And so that's the goal here. So we have attraction, engagement, and delight. And in each of those categories, we're applying additional force, reducing the frictions, reducing the barriers to frictions could be barriers to entry. Figuring out how we do that. Some of our forums that are not that are sitting still, that we don't have champions for, we're going to put those on hold until we can find a champion for it. And the other thing is having one champion. We've decided that, hey, we need multiple people doing this role, because one person, it's a volunteer organization, okay, and we don't all have the time. So if we distribute that, then we've got a force multiplier.
That's a great example of course correction, because initially the idea was that each forum or task force or committee had to have a champion, a singular person who was responsible for moving that thing forward, and course correcting, seeing that was a friction that was holding our flywheel back, because not everybody for every forum is able to commit that amount of time, but maybe a small group or an even larger group could commit that time and introduce the force that would keep that flywheel moving, and that eliminating that requirement of having one champion for everything, reduce friction, hopefully to the benefit of all those forums and task forces.
Yep. And that's just an example of some of the things. So we're going through and looking at all our programs and seeing how we can reduce the friction in them, and then how we can add additional force by bringing in new programs.
Yeah. I just think it's fun that an engineering organization is focused on delight.
That's
not usually
it's not usually associated.
Not usually a word that comes up in engineering, but it's definitely something that we want to do, right? We want to, whatever your intersection with ACEC Georgia is, whether it's a webinar or an in-person program or a meeting or a committee or a task force or whatever, we want that to delight you. We want to exceed your expectations in every way.
That's right. And so with that, what was passed down to me is the 4 big issues that we've been covering for the past few years now.
Yeah.
The QBS, which hopefully it will come off the list. Then we've got AI. How AI is entering into, we're selling time now. At some point, AI is going to make it 5 minutes to get something done that usually take 10 hours or 100 hours or so, or something like that. It's done in that. So you're going to be able 5 minutes. The value,
got to sell value.
Got to sell value.
Yeah.
The other thing is STEM workforce. That is a very big thing, as I alluded to earlier. And then the final thing is diversity, equity, inclusion, making it a business proposition.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's good business is what it boils down to.
Well, like you said about the pandemic, if you're pointed in the right direction, you don't have to have big swings and course correction from year to year.
Right.
The pandemic, I always say about the pandemic, what we did didn't change. It was just how we did it.
That's right.
That changed during that moment. But it was meeting our members where they were, listening to what they needed right then, and providing it for them. And even though we are early in your term, we've also introduced some initiatives. You've taken under your leadership and assigned all of our member firms. Every single ACEC Georgia member firm has a specific board member that is their board member liaison, and those board members are reaching out to their firms and asking them how we're doing, what we need to be working on, and those firms now know that they have a particular member of the board of directors that they can reach out to with whatever their issues are.
That's right. I mean, that is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's just a better way to, we say we're member focused and we want to hear what our members need. What better way to do that than have our board of directors, the leaders, the people who are directing our organization, to reach out to those members on a regular basis and hear from them.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up our time here, just want to plug that you can find out much more about everything that's going on at ACEC Georgia at acecga.org. You can log on there and find out, A, how to become a member if you're not, but B, just the plethora of activities, events, workshops, webinars that ACEC Georgia offers that you've heard us talking about here today. You can find it all there, and just to your heart's delight, register for as much as you want. Like we were saying, if your firm is a member, you're a member. So log on. If you don't have a member ID, we can help you with that. All the instructions are there on the website.
Log in, register for as much as you want, or just find that one particular thing that you're really passionate about that you'd love to get engaged in. We have a wealth. Actually, sometimes it's it's a challenge. We have so much. It's hard to articulate it all, but hopefully folks can go on there and see the thing that they want to be, that they're passionate about, that they'd like to get engaged in.
Yeah. Kenneth, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you, Sully.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Brett. I've gotten over the podcasting without me. It's all fine.
You're over that now?
I'm over that now.
Thank God.
Yeah.
We can move past it. For Engineering Change Podcast, I'm Brett.
I'm Sully.
We'll see you next time.
Intro and closing music. Intention by the Down and Outs. Music used with permission. Engineering Change is a production of ACEC Georgia. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved.